Hello everyone, this is Mr. of Help, and we're looking at this table here and trying to determine what kind of function it is and learn more about it. So with earlier functions, with linear and quadratic, things like that, you could sometimes see patterns by looking at how the y values change as the x values go up by 1. So in this one, for example, you might look and see, oh, from 5 to 10, that's increasing by 5. And then it's increasing by 10, and then it's increasing by 20, and then by 40, and then by 80. And if we kind of see, okay, let's see how that's changing. Well, the difference between those two is 5, and then 10, and then 20, and then 40. And you notice that the numbers just repeat. It's the same exact numbers. And if we kept going with that table, that would just continue to happen. So we wouldn't really get anywhere, and we wouldn't really be able to use that to tell us much of anything. That's a hint that this is actually an exponential function, which behaves a little differently than some of the others, like linear and quadratic and cubic and things like that. So that's not really going to be helpful. But once we recognize that it's exponential, we're thinking about that it's multiplying each time instead of adding or subtracting. And so in this example, it's pretty easy to tell that the multiplication here is by 2. But if you had less friendly numbers, you could use what you know about multiplication. For example, right here, this is saying 5 times something is going to get you 10. Well, if you wanted to do that calculation and figure it out, you could simply divide the 10 by the 5 to find out what that something is, and of course it's 2. And so anytime you have a table like this with less friendly numbers, you can simply divide a number by the one before it to see that it's times 2. And in this case, if you do a few more, 20 divided by 10 is 2, 40 divided by 20 is 2, and so on. And that sort of confirms that your multiplier is 2. So if we're trying to write an equation, a in the form a times b to the x power, we now know that our multiplier is 2. But I can't see the starting value because I don't see the 0 spot in the table. But we can just work backwards. So one way to think of this is if going down the table we're multiplying by 2, going up the table is the opposite, so we would divide by 2. So 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. And then go back one more to get to 0. 2.5 divided by 2 is 1.25, or 1.25. And so that is my start value. And so that's your A. And so our equation would then be 1.25 times 2 to the x power. And you can use that approach even with unfriendly numbers. Again, by understanding that exponentials, we're multiplying to get the next number, so you're multiplying as you go down. So to go up, you just do the opposite and divide. And that's all for now. Thanks.